ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Hare Krishna. Welcome to Bhagavata Pravaha online course on the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. In the last two episodes, we discussed the first 7 chapters of the 7th canto. Today, we will discuss chapters number 8, 9 and 10. So far, we have seen how Prahlad Maharaj was threatened to be killed by Hiranyakashipu, and Hiranyakashipu and his soldiers had also made several attempts to kill Prahlad in so many ways, but always Lord Vishnu protected Prahlad from all kinds of calamities, and Prahlad never gave up his Vishnu Bhakti. So Hiranyakashipu was deeply contemplating how to transform Prahlad, how to make him give up Vishnu Bhakti. Then Shanda and Amarka advised Hiranyakashipu to send Prahlad again back to school, and they said that Prahlad was only a small child and his attachment and his devotion do not have a permanent value, and when he grows up he will definitely change. So in this way Shanda and Amarka gave a counseling to Hiranyakashipu, and finally Hiranyakashipu had sent Prahlad Maharaj back to school. And in the school, during the break hours, Prahlad would gather all his schoolmates and he would give his teachings of Bhakti Yoga. In the previous episode, we have seen elaborately all the teachings of Prahlad Maharaj to his schoolmates on the process of devotional service unto the Supreme Lord Krishna. And hearing about the process of transmigration, the science of soul, and the process of Bhagavata Dharma and devotional service unto the Supreme Lord Krishna, and how Narada Muni has enlightened Prahlad Maharaj when he was in the womb of Mother Kayadu, all the schoolmates have actually developed a deep attraction towards Prahlad's words. So they became attached to Prahlad's instructions and they rejected all the instructions and teachings given by Shanda and Amarka. And all the school boys, these children, they started doing Harinam Sankirtan, they started performing devotional service unto the Supreme Lord Hari, Krishna, Vishnu. And Prahlad influenced all of them. So this is how a pure devotee influences common people to take to the process of devotional service and to traverse on a bona fide spiritual path. When Prahlad Maharaj, because he himself was a pure devotee enlightened by another pure devotee, Narada Muni, Prahlad had the ability to enlighten the school boys. Although Prahlad was staying within the womb of his mother, Narada Muni could enlighten Prahlad. Similarly, although the schoolmates are very small children, still Prahlad, a 5-year-old boy, could enlighten them in the process of devotional service. Very tender age, or being within the womb, or having demoniac birth, and being trained by demoniac teachers, or surrounded by demoniac vibrations, were not obstacles for Prahlad to practice devotional service and to teach devotional service. So Prahlad Maharaj very effectively taught the process of bhakti to all the children, and the children accepted those teachings and they started becoming devotees. And Shanda and Amarka, the teachers in this school, they started noticing that Prahlad was not only giving up Vishnu Bhakti, and he was also influencing other boys also to take to process of devotional service, and they became so afraid. Shanda and Amarka went to Hiranyakashipu and then reported everything that Prahlad has been doing in the school. Then Hiranyakashipu became extremely furious. He was so angry at Prahlad. He said, Hiranyakashipu decided to kill Prahlad. Although Hiranyakashipu's attempts to kill Prahlad had been failed, we discussed in the 5th chapter, again Hiranyakashipu threatened Prahlad that I will kill you, dear son. So why are you so impudent? You are impudent, you are unintelligent, you are disrupting our family tradition. We are demons. We are supposed to hate Vishnu and you are worshipping Vishnu, and you are the lowest of men, and you are so obstinate. You have violated my power. When I raise my eyebrows, all the residents of heavenly planets also, all the demigods and all the directions, they become frightened when I raise my eyebrows, and you are a mere 5-year-old boy and you are not at all afraid of me. And he challenged Prahlad, on whose strength are you so fearless? Prahlad, tell me, who is giving you so much strength? And Prahlad very honestly and humbly told Hiranyakashipu that na kevalam me bhavatasya rajan savai balam balinam cha paresham pare vare ve sthira jangamaye brahmadayo ye navasham pranitaha. In this shloka, Prahlad told, O Hiranyakashipu, O my dear father, O king of demons, you are asking the source of my strength. Not only the source of my strength, the source of your strength also is the Supreme Lord Vishnu. He is the source of the strength of every single living being in the entire cosmic manifestation. Even great demigods, including Brahma, who has given you benedictions, is also deriving his strength from Vishnu only. Please understand this fact. Now it's a big blow on the false ego of Hiranyakashipu. Because Hiranyakashipu always hated Vishnu, the Supreme Lord, and Prahlad is saying that the source of Hiranyakashipu's strength and Prahlad's strength and even Brahma's strength also is Vishnu. So Hiranyakashipu was extremely surprised and he was bewildered and he became so angry at this reply. And Prahlad Maharaj says that the Supreme Controller, Supreme Lord, is Ishvara, is time factor, and he is the one who is running this whole cosmic manifestation. My dear father, give up your demoniac mentality. Give up your demoniac mentality and diplomacy and politics and a tendency to discriminate people as friends and enemies. Give up such mentality. He says that enemies actually do not exist. Enemies are only imagined by the material mind. In our mind, we imagine that we have so many enemies, but we actually don't have enemies. Our enemies are actually lust, envy, anger, pride, greed. These are the anarthas who are our real enemies. We consider other people as our enemies, but our real enemies are our own anarthas who are residing within us only. If you manage to kill these demons, these enemies, you will not have any enemies. Don't unnecessarily consider Vishnu as your enemy. Your enemy is your own anger, your own lust, your own pride, your own greed. Your own false ego is your enemy, not Vishnu. Then Prahlad, when he boldly gave these teachings to Hiranyakashipu, and Prahlad was praising the Supreme Lord as all-pervading, as a Supreme Lord, Supreme Controller, Hiranyakashipu threatened to kill Prahlad. He says that, Prahlad, you seem to be desiring death in my hands today. That's why you are behaving so arrogantly and you are replying back with so much of confidence. So you tell me, where is your Lord? You are claiming that your Lord is omniscient. He is everywhere. He is all-powerful. He is all-pervading. Can you show me your Lord? Who is your God? You tell me. So I shall now sever your head. If I just break your head, let me see whether your God, your so-called God, will come to protect you or not. If you say that, if you claim that the Lord is present everywhere, why is he not present in this pillar, in this column in my assembly hall? So then Hiranyakashipu, when he said like this, Prahlad confidently said, yes, my Lord is everywhere. So he can be there in the pillar, he's outside the pillar, he's everywhere. Then Hiranyakashipu struck that pillar with his fist and the pillar broke open. So it broke open and a fearful, frightening sound, cracking sound came from that pillar. And that sound was so tumultuous that the coverings of the universe are also vibrating with that sound. And that sound went to even upper planetary systems also. Hiranyakashipu could not manage to hear that sound. All the demons and demonic associates of Hiranyakashipu became extremely perturbed hearing that sound. And the Supreme Lord took the form, very ferocious and special, never seen before form of Narasimhadev, half man and half lion form, and appeared from that pillar, from that broken pillar. So this beautiful shloka comes, that is the 17th shloka of this chapter, 8th chapter. The shloka says, Satyam vidhatum nijabhritya bhashitam vyaptim cha bhuteshvakhileshu chatmanah adrishyatatyadbhutarupamudvahan stambhe sabhayam na mrigam na manusham. Satyam vidhatum nijabhritya bhashitam. Satyam means truth. To make the words of his own devotee true, the Supreme Lord manifested this form. Satyam vidhatum nijabhritya bhashitam. Nijabhritya means his own servant, the Lord's own servant. Bhashitam means the words of his servant. When Prahlad said that my Lord is everywhere, he is there in this pillar also, the Lord, to prove the words of Prahlad true, the Lord manifested from the pillar. Satyam vidhatum nijabhritya bhashitam vyaptim cha bhuteshu akhileshu chatmanah. So he proved the words of Prahlad that the Lord is all pervading, he is everywhere. And adrishyata adbhutam rupam udvahan. And he has manifested in such a form which is adrishyata, it is never seen before. Adbhutam, which is extremely wonderful. And how did he manifest? Stambhe sabhayam. He appeared from a pillar in that sabha, in that assembly hall. Na mrigam, na manusham. He was neither an animal, nor a man. He was a combination of man and animal. He was Narasimha. There is a lion head and there is a human body. So he appeared in the form of Narasimha, and this is not a species created by Brahma. Brahma never created this kind of species. Brahma created human beings. Brahma created lions and tigers and other animals, but he never made a man animal. So the Lord manifested in that form. Because Hiranyakashipu said, I should not be killed by any being created by Brahma. I should not be killed by any animal. I should not be killed by any human being or demigod or demon or anyone. So Narasimhadev manifested like this. So in this way, Narasimhadev has proved the words of Hiranyakashipu also true. Narasimhadev has also proved the words of Brahma true. Because Hiranyakashipu asked the benedictions of not being killed by any man or animal, and many other protocols are there, we discussed in the previous session. And Brahmaji has given all these benedictions. So by appearing in the form of Narasimhadev from pillar, Lord Narasimhadev, the Supreme Lord Hari, has proved the words of Prahlad true. He has also proved the words of Hiranyakashipu true. He has also proved the words of Brahma true. Brahma is a devotee and Prahlad is a devotee. Why the Lord has to prove the words of Hiranyakashipu true? Because Hiranyakashipu was also a devotee in his previous birth. So Jaya and Vijaya were the doorkeepers of Vaikuntha, and they were cursed by the four Kumaras to become demons in this material world. Thus Jaya and Vijaya became Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. So in the previous situation, Hiranyakashipu was a devotee of the Lord. So the Lord still considered him as his own, and he fulfilled the desire of Hiranyakashipu not to be killed by all these means. So, and even Narada Muni's words are also true, because Narada Muni predicted that when Prahlad was in the womb of Khayadu, as we discussed yesterday, Narada Muni told the demigods that this child cannot be killed. He's a very great devotee. So to prove the words of Narada Muni true, Narasimhadev appeared to protect Prahlad from death and to punish Hiranyakashipu, who was trying to kill Prahlad. So that is this beautiful shloka. And Narasimhadev appeared in such fearsome form. He had angry eyes that are resembling molten gold, and he had a very shining mane that expanded the dimensions of his fearful face. The face is this much, and then his mane is so big. And he had deadly teeth and razor-sharp tongue, which moved like a sword. The tongue is moving like a sword to kill. And his ears were erect and motionless, and his nostrils were like big mountain caves. He was so huge in comparison to this Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu was like a small insect in comparison to the huge form of Narasimhadev. And his entire body was almost touching the sky, and his bodily hairs were like the white rays of moon. So like that, Narasimhadev, he was so ferocious, yet he was beautiful, and he was shining with great effulgence. The Lord, although he appears in various forms, sometimes the forms are forms of animals or man-animal here in this case, but in whichever form the Lord appears, he is divine, he is spiritual, he is effulgent, and he is beautiful and attractive. So the Lord manifested in front of Hiranyakashipu, and Hiranyakashipu thought that, oh, Vishnu has taken this form to kill me, but who can kill me? I have so many great benedictions from Brahma, nobody can kill me. So then Hiranyakashipu took his sword and shield and started attacking Narasimhadev. So Hiranyakashipu went towards Narasimhadev. It appeared as if an insect is entering fire. The Lord was as effulgent as fire, and Hiranyakashipu, when he was approaching this effulgent Lord, he was looking like a moth or an insect entering the fire. Sometimes insect gets attracted by the effulgence of fire and enters fire and loses its life. So this comparison is also significant, that when Hiranyakashipu tries to attack the Supreme Lord in the form of Narasimhadev, it is Hiranyakashipu only who would be defeated and who would be killed. Lord is not affected by it. And the Lord captured Hiranyakashipu just like Garuda captures a snake. And the Lord played with Hiranyakashipu for a while, and the Lord fought with him. And during this fight, Narasimhadev allowed Hiranyakashipu to be released from his grip, because the Lord also wants to encourage Hiranyakashipu to fight. If he just fights and if he kills the demon within few seconds only, the Lord would not be enjoying the fighting spirit. If the Lord wants, he can fight with, he can kill the demons within a moment also. Even without manifesting the form of Narasimhadev also, Lord Vishnu can kill Hiranyakashipu effortlessly. But still, to enjoy pastimes, to enjoy Leelas, the Lord manifested in the form of Narasimhadev and fought with Hiranyakashipu for some time. And the Lord was also fighting till the evening time, because Hiranyakashipu wanted a benediction from Brahma. So in that set of benedictions, he also said that I should not be killed during the daytime or in the night time. So the Lord did not kill Hiranyakashipu during the daytime or night time. He waited for the evening time. Till evening he was fighting with Hiranyakashipu, and in the evening time he killed. So evening time is not considered day, it's not considered night also. It's the junction between day and night. So the Lord was fighting with Hiranyakashipu, and during the fight, the Lord would release Hiranyakashipu just to encourage Hiranyakashipu to fight more. For example, when the Supreme Lord took the form of Varahadev, he was fighting with Hiranyaksha. Then the fight went for a long time, and at the end, Varahadev just slapped Hiranyaksha, and Hiranyaksha fell dead. Similarly, in this case also, the Lord Narasimhadev would fight with Hiranyakashipu for a long time till the evening, and in the evening, he effortlessly kills Hiranyakashipu with merely his fingernails. He would just insert his nails within the abdomen of Hiranyakashipu and rips it apart, and then takes out the intestines of Hiranyakashipu and then garlands himself. That is the way in which Narasimhadev effortlessly killed Hiranyakashipu after fighting with him for a long time. So and in this way he also kept the promise or the benediction of Brahma intact. So Hiranyakashipu said, I should not be killed during the daytime or night time. So the Lord killed in evening time. And Hiranyakashipu did not want to be killed by any animal or demigod or a human being or a demon or any being created by Brahma or not created by Brahma. So the Lord is not a being created by Brahma. He is not an animal, he is not a demigod, he is beyond everything. So Vishnu killed him. And Hiranyakashipu also did not want to be killed inside a house or outside the house. So Narasimhadev made Hiranyakashipu sit on his lap at the entrance of a door, and he killed him. So at the entrance of a door is not inside the house or outside the house. And the Lord made Hiranyakashipu sit on his lap. That is not ground, that is not sky. It's somewhere in the middle. So that condition is also met. So in this way, the Lord followed all the protocols set in the benedictions of Brahma and killed Hiranyakashipu. So one may think that I am so intelligent and I can avoid death. But however intelligent a person may be to make plans to avoid death, the Lord's supreme intelligence is beyond the intelligence of any mortal being in this world, and he can invent some means to kill that such a demoniac person. And also, it's not necessary for the Supreme Lord Vishnu to follow all the protocols set in the benedictions of Brahma. It was not necessary for him. But still, the Lord respected the autonomy of Brahma. Oh, Brahma has given these benedictions. If I just surpass those benedictions, then nobody would value Brahma, nobody would worship Brahma. So I should, and Brahma is my devotee also, I should respect the benedictions given by Brahma. Sometimes the Lord values the benedictions given to his devotees, given by his devotees to some of the demoniac people or materialistic people also. Not that the Lord cannot surpass the boons of Brahma or Shiva, but he values them so that other people will value them. So if a topmost authority is surpassing the protocols or the rules set by an intermediate authority, the common people who are following the intermediate authority would not have any faith in him. So the Lord respects the autonomy of his devotees also, of the demigods also. And the Lord Narasimhadev then sat on the throne of Hiranyakashipu. So he killed Hiranyakashipu, and so many other demons came to attack Narasimhadev. With merely his finger nails and his hands, Narasimhadev just killed all these demons who tried to attack, and nobody came to attack Narasimhadev now. Finally, Narasimhadev saw that nobody is there to fight with me, so he did not know whom to attack. So he just went on this and sat on the throne of Hiranyakashipu. And he still maintained his angry mood. And when the Lord killed Hiranyakashipu, the Lord just ripped apart the chest of Hiranyakashipu and took out his heart and saw the heart. He was examining the heart, Hiranyakashipu's heart. He was thinking, the Lord was thinking that I was sitting here happily because in everybody's heart the Supreme Lord is there. So Narasimhadev saw the heart of Hiranyakashipu, and then he was thinking, I was sitting in this heart, but how did this person allow envy, greed, and pride and all the anarthas to enter this heart? The Lord examined that heart and then threw that heart aside. Then the Lord sat on the throne of Hiranyakashipu, and another question may be raised. How could Narasimhadev sit on the throne of Hiranyakashipu? That was the throne used by a demon. So we offer a seat to the Lord by sanctifying the seat, by purifying the seat. Idam asanam, when we offer that asanam to the Supreme Lord, then we actually offer it with great respect. But here, Hiranyakashipu's throne, this seat, was not offered by anyone to Narasimhadev, and it was not pure also because a demon sat. But still, the Lord Narasimhadev sat on the throne. Why? Because although Hiranyakashipu was a demon, in his previous situation, Hiranyakashipu was a devotee of the Lord. He was the doorkeeper, Jaya. So he was the gatekeeper of Vaikuntha, Jaya. So in whichever situation a devotee may be in, the devotee is always glorious and always fortunate. So just because this Jaya, the doorkeeper of Vaikuntha, took the form of Hiranyakashipu, that does not mean that Jaya has lost his glory. It's just a temporary lifetime. And in 2 more lifetimes, as we discussed in the first episode, this Jaya and Vijaya are Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu in this birth, and in the next birth they will become Ravana and Kumbhakarna, and in another birth they will become Shishupal and Dantavakra, and after being killed by the Lord in various incarnations, they will again go back to Vaikuntha and then resume their service. They will again take up their service. So the Lord proved to the whole world that my devotee is always fortunate in all circumstances. So when the Supreme Lord Hiranyakashipu, Supreme Lord Narasimhadev was sitting on the throne of Hiranyakashipu, then all the demigods came forward and offered prayers to Hiranyakashipu, prayers to Narasimhadev. So Lord Narasimhadev was still maintaining his angry mood. So to pacify the anger of Narasimhadev, Brahma offered his prayers. Then Shiva offered his prayers. Then Indra, all the sages and Pitris, the Siddhas, and Vidyadharas, Nagas, Manus, Prajapatis, Gandharvas, Charanas, Yakshas, Kimpurushas, and Kinnaras, and even Vishnu Parshadas, all of them offered their heartfelt prayers to Narasimhadev. But in all these prayers, these demigods and other celestial beings, they were only saying that, oh Narasimhadev, this Hiranyakashipu has been tormenting us in various ways. Now that you have killed him, we can live as usual. That's the common theme of most of these prayers. For example, the sages said, oh Lord, you are the Lord of austerity and you have created this universe, but this demon has stopped our austerities, and now that you have killed this demon, we can continue to perform our austerities. And Siddha said, this dishonest demon took our natural mystic powers. Now we have regained our mystic powers. So like that, all the demigods offered prayers to Narasimhadev, mainly highlighting how were they gained by the killing of, by the death of Hiranyakashipu. And they were just acknowledging the favor done by Narasimhadev towards them. But Narasimhadev was not yet pacified with all these prayers. We completed the 8th chapter, we entered the 9th chapter. In the 9th chapter we can see that when the demigods were not daring to approach Narasimha, then Lakshmi Devi also was hesitating to approach. Lakshmi Devi said, I have never seen my husband Narayana or Vishnu in this kind of ferocious form. He is not approachable even to me also. Lakshmi Devi, when she said like that, I mean, we cannot take this literally, because Narasimhadev's form is not a temporary form. It's a permanent and eternal form. Ramadi Murti Sukala Niyamena Tishtan Nanavatara Makarod Bhavaneshu Kintu. So Krishna has so many forms, so many incarnations. And in all these incarnations are Vishnu Tattvas, and they are eternally residing in their own spiritual planets in the spiritual sky. So Lakshmi definitely must have seen the form of Narasimhadev. But now she says that no, I have not seen this form before, because she was influenced by Leela Shakti, or the pastime potency of the Supreme Lord Narasimhadev. That's why she is saying like this. Just to create astonishment, just to create Adbhuta Rasa, Lakshmi Devi said that I have not seen my husband in this form, although she has seen earlier. And also in this context, the whole credit of pacifying Narasimhadev should go to this little boy Prahlad, not anyone else. In this episode, the Lord wanted to highlight the devotion of Prahlad. So Prahlad becomes the hero. When nobody was coming forward to pacify Narasimhadev, Brahma came to Prahlad and said, dear Prahlad, Lord Narasimhadev has manifested in this unprecedented form to show his favor upon you. So you better go forward and pacify Narasimhadev. So in this context, Prahlad's devotion is highlighted. And in the 8th canto, we see that Prahlad takes a back seat when Lord Vamanadev had to give his benedictions to Bali Maharaj. So there Bali Maharaj is very prominent. So in different contexts, in different incarnations, the Supreme Lord highlights the devotion of different devotees. So in this context, Prahlad went forward and he said, and that is described by Narada Muni so nicely. Swapada mule patitam tamarbhakam vilokya devaha kripaya pariplutaham utthapya tatsirshna dadhat karambujam kalahi visrasta dhiyam krita bhayam. So in this shloka, this is the 5th shloka of the 9th chapter, it is said that Swapada mule patitam tamarbhakam. This Arbhaka, this small child Prahlad, went forward and fell at the feet of Narasimhadev. Then Vilokya Devaha Kripaya Pariplutaha. This Lord Narasimhadev saw this boy with affectionate glances. And Kripaya Pariplutaha, all the glances of Narasimhadev on this boy are filled with so much of kripa, mercy, compassion and affection. And Utthapya Tat Sirshni Adadhat Karambhujam. Narasimhadev has placed his lotus hand on the head of this boy, Prahlad. And Kalahi Visrasta Dhiyam Kritabhayam, that beautiful hand of Narasimhadev that has just killed Hiranyakashipu, is the cause of all fearlessness to all the devotees. That hand, that Karakamala, that lotus hand of the Lord that has nails like thunderbolts, that hand causes destruction to the demons and gives protection to the devotees. So with the same hand, the Lord can destroy demons and protect the devotees. So when this hand of Narasimhadev is kept on the head of Prahlad, Prahlad was not fearful. When the same hand was on the abdomen of Hiranyakashipu, that those nails have completely ripped apart the abdomen of Hiranyakashipu and then pulled all the intestines, and then the intestines were like garlands for Narasimhadev. But Prahlad was very happy and he was extremely pleased, and he became very fearless by the blessings of Narasimhadev, and he manifested all symptoms of ecstasy. Satatkara sparsha dhuta khila shubha sapadya bhivyakta paratma darshanaha tatpada padmam hridi nirvrito dadhau hrishyatanu huklinna hridashri lochanaha. In this beautiful shloka, it is described that Prahlad became completely purified by the karasparsha, by the touch of the hand of Narasimha. And sapadi abhivyakta paratma darshanaha. So he immediately manifested realization of the Supreme Lord. Darshanaha means realization. Darshan is also vision of the Lord, and darshan is also realization, a spiritual realization. Prahlad was bestowed with all spiritual realizations. And tat pada padmam hridinirvrito dadhau. Prahlad has taken the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord Narasimhadev within his heart, and his eyes were shedding tears of joy, tears of ecstasy. And in such a mood, with deep absorption, with his mind completely dedicated to Narasimhadev's lotus feet, Prahlad began to offer prayers. So from the 8th shloka till the 50th shloka, we can see 43 prayers offered by Prahlad, and we will discuss a brief summary of all these prayers. So first he says, Brahmadaya suragana hamunayotha siddha satvaikatanagatyo vachasam pravahaihi naradhitum puruganair adhuna pipipru kim toshtumarhati same harirugra jate. Brahmadaya suragana hamunayo atha siddha. Here Prahlad was asked by Brahma to go forward and please Lord Narasimhadev. But when Prahlad Maharaj was asked like that, Prahlad did not feel a sense of superiority complex or pride in his heart. He did not immediately feel that, oh, I am better than all this Brahma, Shiva, Indra, Chandra, Varuna, Vayu, Siddha, Charanas, Kinnaras, Kimpurushas, Vidyadharas, Gandharvas, Vishnu Parshadas and Lakshmi also. Nobody could pacify Narasimhadev, and I am the chosen one to go and please Narasimhadev. So this whole proposal did not increase the pride of Prahlad, because he was so humble. A devotee is never proud of his own accomplishments, of his own devotional standard. A devotee is always humble. So as soon as Prahlad went towards Narasimhadev, he immediately said, Brahmadayaha suraganaha munayo atha siddhaha. Brahma tried to appease you, Suragana, different demigods tried to please you, Munayo, so many sages tried to please you, Siddhaha, many perfected beings also tried to pacify you, Narasimhadev. But he says, Sattvaikatana gatayo vachasam pravahaihi. What is the qualification of all these great souls? Sattva, they are in pure mode of goodness. And vachasam pravahaihi, they are praising you with eloquent words, eloquent poetry. But naradhitum means these eloquent praises and sattvaguna or mode of goodness was not sufficient qualification to please you, my dear Lord. Naradhitum puruganaihi adhunapi pipruhu kim toshtumarhati same harir ugra jate. If they fail to please you, how can I become successful in pleasing you, my dear Lord? Because I am not in mode of goodness. I am born in a demoniac dynasty, Ugrajati, and we demons are mainly in mode of passion and ignorance. How can we please you? And he says that Harirugra Jatehe, and I don't have so much of sattva also. So how can I please you? So immediately Prahlad Maharaj just declared his humble position and inferior position in front of all these great souls. So Brahmaji failed to appease the Lord, and Brahma requested this Prahlad to go and please the Lord. That did not make Prahlad proud. A devotee is never proud. He is always humble in all circumstances. Even if a devotee is capable of rendering some specific service or offering prayers to the Lord to please him, still a devotee always considers oneself very lowly and unqualified. And further he says, Manye dhanabhijana rupa tapashrutaujaha tejah prabhava balapurusha buddhi yogaha naradhanaya hi bhavanti parasya pumso bhaktya tutosha bhagavan gajayuthapaya Manye dhana abhijana rupa tapa shruta oja. Dhana is wealth. Abhijana means followers. Manye dhana abhijana rupa means beautiful form. Tapa austerity. Shruta education. Oja physical strength and sensual strength. Like that there are 12 qualifications of a Brahmana or civilized beings. All these 12 great qualifications cannot please you, my dear Lord. Here he says, Prahlad says that although a person is qualified in various ways, it's not a necessary prerequisite to have all these qualifications to please you, to worship you. Bhaktya tutosha bhagavan gajayuthapaya. Oh Lord, you are pleased and satisfied only by bhakti. And if that bhakti is manifested even by an elephant also, you are pleased with that elephant. Just like you have bestowed your divine mercy upon Gajendra. So Gajendra's episode happened in the 4th Manvantara. So Lord Hari protected Gajendra from a crocodile. So you can bestow your mercy even on an elephant, but you cannot bestow mercy upon people who are very arrogant because they are puffed up of these 12 qualifications. Then in the next shloka he says, Vipra dvishadguna yutadaravindana padaravinda vimukhat swapacham varishtham Manye tadarpita manovachane hitartha pranam punati sakulam natu bhori manaha Viprad dvishad guna yutad aravindanabha. O lotus navel Lord, a Vipra or a Brahmana who has 12 qualifications like truthfulness, then cleanliness, sense control, mind control, austerity, Vedic education, etc., etc. A Vipra may have 12 great qualifications, but if he is padaravinda vimukhat, if he is averse to a sense of subordination to your lotus feet, my dear Lord, he cannot please you. He cannot perfect his life. He cannot deliver his family. On the other hand, swapacham varishtham, a person who is born in the family of dog eaters, if he performs bhakti unto you, he is way better than this qualified Brahmana. A dog eater becomes better than a Brahmana if this person born in dog eater's family is a devotee of the Lord, and if this Brahmana does not have devotion to the Lord. It is devotion, it is bhakti unto the Lord that makes a person glorious than all other external qualifications. This has been proved in the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj. And next question is, did Prahlad have bhakti? Prahlad is saying that all the external qualifications of being a demigod, having mode of goodness and many other qualifications will not please the Lord. But does Prahlad have bhakti? Because only bhakti pleases the Lord? Yes. Prahlad claims that I have some bhakti. Not out of arrogance, out of humility. He says that by the mercy of my Guru Narada Muni, I have a slight trace of bhakti. And with that slight trace of bhakti, you are pleased. And my dear Lord, I am attempting to please you with this slight trace of bhakti. He says like this. And he says, Naivatmanah prabhurayam nijalabha purno manam janada vidushah karuno vrinete yadyajjano bhagavate vidadhita manam Tachatmane pratimukhasya yatha mukhashriyehe. Oh Lord, I have little bhakti. With that bhakti, let me try to please you. And when I make an attempt to please you or offer you prayers or make any offerings, that is very beneficial to me only. When a devotee makes an offering to the Lord, it's not that the Lord is getting any benefit from that offering. Actually, the devotee is getting benefited. By performing devotional service unto the Lord, we are not causing any favor to the Lord. We are actually favoring ourselves. So, just like when the person is decorated nicely, the reflection also automatically becomes beautiful. But if you decorate the reflection, the person will not become beautiful. We are like reflections of the Lord. When we serve the Lord, we become beautiful, we become happy and satisfied. And if we try to satisfy our own selves, keeping the Lord aside, we will not derive satisfaction. So, having made up his mind to offer prayers to the Lord, in the 12th shloka, Prahalad says, very beautiful shloka. Tasmadaham vigata viklava ishwarasya sarvatmanamayi grinami yathamanisham nicho jaya guna visargamanu pravishtaha puyeta yena hipuman anuvarnitena. He says, Tasmadaham vigata viklava ishwarasya. Oh my dear Lord, let me keep aside all my conceptions of being unqualified. A devotee may be convinced about one's own disqualifications and a mentality of being unfit to please the Lord, but still, devotee accepts the opportunity for a privileged service and renders service to the Lord, offers prayers to the Lord and worships the Lord, not because he is qualified. He is convinced about his own disqualifications, but still he offers prayers to the Lord because he understands that Krishna's mercy is greater than my disqualifications. So God's grace is way greater than our own shortcomings. So we may be having hundreds of shortcomings, but that does not mean the Lord has no potency to deliver us from those shortcomings. The Lord is very merciful and he can deliver anyone and everyone from any degraded situation. So when we approach the Lord to render some service, we are keeping faith in the Lord's protection aspect, in the Lord's ability to uplift our consciousness. So in this way, Prahalad offers prayers. And then in the 13th shloka, Prahalad says that, oh Lord, the demigods are not fearful seeing you. Actually, we demons are fearful, but the demigods are never fearful. But now that you have, and all your incarnations are meant to cause pleasure and prosperity for everyone, not cause any fear. But now in this context, the demigods are getting fearful seeing your ferocious form. So can you please give up your anger? It's not necessary for you to maintain this anger anymore. He says that, Modeta sadhur apivrishchika sarpa hatya. When a demon is killed, or when a scorpion or a snake is killed, then even sadhus, even renunciants and saints also would rejoice the death of a scorpion and snake. Because the scorpions and snakes would unnecessarily become angry and envious of people and they bite and inject their poison in people. So even sadhus also could become happy when the snake is killed. But a snake also can be controlled with certain mantras, and the poison of the snake can be controlled with certain mantras. But a person who is demoniac in nature is more dangerous than a poison. So Hiranyakashipu is more dangerous than a snake, and that Hiranyakashipu has been killed and the entire universe is celebrating the death of Hiranyakashipu. And now they are fearful of Narasimhadev because Narasimhadev is still maintaining that angry mood. Oh Lord, please give up your anger. And the demigods are getting fearful. What about Prahalad? Is Prahalad fearful of Narasimhadev? Then Prahalad very emphatically declares in the 15th shloka, he says that, my dear Lord, I am not fearful of your ferocious form. He says, Naham bibhemya jitate bhayanakasya jihvarka netra bharkuti rabhasogra damstrat antrasraja kshatajake shankhu karnan nirhada bhita digibad aribhinna khagrat. He says, Naham bibhemi, my dear Lord, I am not fearful of your ferocious form. Naham bibhemi ajitate ati bhayanakasya. O Ajita, O unconquerable Lord, your form is ati bhayanaka. Ati bhayanakasya jihva arka netra. Your jihva, your tongue is very ferocious, very fearsome. Your tongue, which is supposed to be soft, is like a sword that can pierce through the hearts of demoniac people. But I am not afraid of this fearful tongue. Ati bhayanakasya jihva arka netra. Your eyes are like frowning like sun. They are shining like sun. We cannot see sun for a long time. Even if we see the sun for 5 seconds also, we cannot tolerate the heat of sun, summer sun. So the Lord's eyes are so effulgent like sun. So jihvar arkanetra bhrukuti rabhasogradamstrat. Bhrukuti means your frowning eyebrows. Rabhasogradamstrat, your teeth which are like thunderbolts. And antrasrajaha kshataja keshara shankhu karnan. Antrasraja means the Lord is wearing a garland of intestines in the form of Krishna. In Vrindavan, Krishna wears the garland of flowers, forest flowers. But Narasimhadev wears a garland of intestines of Hiranyakashipu. He just rips apart the chest of Hiranyakashipu, takes out the intestines and then wears them as garland. Antrasrajaha. If you see somebody wearing a garland of intestines and all blood is oozing from him, anybody would become fearful. Can you just imagine the ferocious form of Narasimhadev? But Prahalad is not at all fearful of that ferocious form. Antrasrajaha kshataja keshara shankhu karanan. Your widge like ears and your bloody mane is not fearful to me. And nirhada bhita digibad aribhinna nakhagrat. With your tips of nails, which are like thunderbolts, you can just completely tear the chest of your enemy. And when you roar like a lion, then all the 4 elephants that are balancing the universe, balancing the Bhumandala on 4 sides, they become fearful. That is the extent of Narasimhadev's ferocious form. But Prahalad is not at all fearful, he declares. Then Prahalad later says that although I am not fearful of your ferocious form, I am fearful of one thing, that is the material existence. He says in the 16th sloka, he says, Trastosmyaham kripanavat dusahogra samsara chakra kadanat grasatam pranitah baddha swakarma bhirusattamatinghrimulam pritopavarga sharanam havayaseka dano. So in this shloka, he says, Trastosmyaham kripanavat dusahogra. Oh Lord, please show your mercy upon me. Kripanavatsala, you are extremely merciful towards people who are very fallen. And dussahogra samsara chakra kadanat grasatam pranitam. I am being tormented in this cycle of repeated birth and death in this material existence. And on top of it, although I am born in a demoniac family, I am in samsara chakra, that too I am born in a demoniac family where I have association of materialistic people who are constantly addicted to all kinds of sense gratification and tormenting people. So being in the material existence itself is a very fallen situation. And on top of it, being in the material world, in the association of non-devotees and materialistic people and demons is much more unfortunate. Prahalad says, I am like that. See, Prahalad is presenting his case in a very, very lowly manner. I am such a fallen person. And can you please protect me from this from this fearsome situation? Please show some mercy on me. Then Narasimhadev might say, oh, you are saying that you are undergoing some miseries. Don't you have any solution? Prahalad says, Baddhaha swakarma bhirusattamatenghrimulam. By our own fruitive activities, materialistic activities, we are bound. We are entangled in material bondage by our own activities. That's the nature of this world. So is there any remedy? Prahalad says, yes, there are remedies to this material miseries. But those remedies are more miserable than the miseries themselves. So they are not actually remedies. He says, Yasmat priya priya viyoga samyoga janma shokagnina sakalayo nishudahya manaha dukkaushadam tadapi dukkhamathadhyaham bhuman bhramami vadame tavadasya yogam. He says, yasmat priya apriya viyoga samyoga janma. In this material world, we always encounter things that are very pleasant or sometimes unpleasant. And shokagnina sakalayonishu dahiyamanaha. In this agni of lamentation, in this fire of lamentation, all the species in this material existence are burnt. And dukkhaushadam tadapi dukkham atadhyaham. If there is any remedy for this distress, the remedies are more miserable than the miseries themselves. So he says, Bhuman Bhramami Vadame Tavadasya Yogam. Please tell me, when will I get an opportunity to render service unto your lotus feet? Because I am convinced that only by rendering service to your lotus feet, I will come out of these miseries. Then in the 18th shloka, Prahalad says, Soham priyasya suhrudaha paradevataya Leela kathastava nrisimha virincha gita Agnas titarmya nugridan gunavi pramukto Durgani te padayuga alaya hamsa sangha. He says that Soham priyasya suhrudaha paradevataya. O Lord, you are Suhruda, you are our dearmost well-wisher. You are Paradevata, you are the Supreme Transcendental Lord. Soham priyasya suhrudaha paradevataya leela kathastava nrisimha virincha gitaha. So I just want to follow the footsteps of Brahma and other pure devotees and glorify your leelas. And gunavipramukto, then in this way I will be able to give up all the association of material modes and be released from the bondage of material modes. Durganite pada yugalaya hamsa sangaha. When will I get the association of pure devotees who are like Paramahamsas, who are like swans, who can discriminate between milk and water, means between good and bad? Then I seek only your shelter and the shelter of the association of your devotees. Without your shelter, nobody can protect oneself. He says in the 19th shloka, he says, Balasya neha sharanau pitarau nrisimha nartasya chagadamudanvati majjato nauh taptasya tat pratividhir yayihanja seshtaha tavad vibhotanubhritam tvadupekshitanam. He says that Balasya neha sharanau pitarau nrisimha. Balasya, for a small child, parents are not the real protectors, because even in the presence of parents also the child may meet with an accident or the child may even die also. Then nartasya chagada mudanvati majjato nauhu. A perfect medicine or a physician cannot actually protect a dying patient. If the tenure of a soul within a material body is exhausted, the soul has to leave that body. No medicine can protect him and no doctor can protect him. Then, majjato nauhu. When a person is destined to drown in an ocean, even the greatest ship also cannot protect such a person. So, finally, our Prahalad Maharaj says, Taptasya tat pratividhir yayihanja seshtaha tavad vibhot anubhritam tvadupekshitanam. If the Lord, Supreme Lord, does not show His mercy on a person, the person actually has no rescue. So we only have to seek shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord in all circumstances, and no other material source can protect us from any calamity. Then Prahlad continues to describe that, O Lord, you have manifested everything in this universe. Your shelter will actually liberate us from Maya, and you are the controller of Maya. We are being controlled by Maya, and you are the controller of Maya. For us to come out of the control of Maya, we have to come under your control by practicing Bhakti Yoga. So then only we will be relieved from this material existence. And finally, Prahlad also says that I have actually seen the futility of all material pleasures. All the material pleasures are highly insubstantial. And I have seen the futility of Ayu, Shriya and Vibhava. Means Ayu means long lifespan, Shriya means great beauty and opulence, Vibhava is opulence, wealth. So my father had all this. Hiranyakashipu had a long lifespan. He was practically made into immortal by the benedictions of Brahma, and he had a lot of wealth. What? How much wealth? all the three planetary systems are the wealth of Hiranyakashipu. He became the king of all three worlds. But within a moment, Narasimhadev has killed Hiranyakashipu, and Hiranyakashipu has lost everything within a moment. So the Lord can completely vanquish and destroy any amount of material wealth within a moment. So that's why Prahalad says that Kutrasishah Sruti Sukha Mrigatrishni Rupaha Kvedam Kaleva Ramasesha Rujam Viroha Nirvidyate Natu Jano Yadapaiti Vidvan Kalat Kamanalam Madhulavaihi Shamayandu Rapaihi. In this beautiful shloka, Prahalad says that Kutrasishaha Sruti Sukha Mrigatrishni Rupa. Asisha means material boons, material benedictions. That an example is what Hiranyakashipu received from Brahma is a material benediction. Kutrasishaha, what kind of blessing is that? Sruti Sukha, there is only happiness in hearing. So there is only promise that you will be happy, but there is actually no happiness there. Sruti Sukha Mrigatrishni Rupa. Mrigatrishni Rupa means a mirage in the desert. In a desert, sometimes you find a water body, but that water body is not actually water body. It is just a illusion. From a distance you feel that there is a water body, you go close, there is only sand there. So happiness in this material world is also like that. From a distance, in hearing, you may receive a promise that, oh, this, you take this product, it will be, you will become extremely happy. But it's only in hearing. But when you actually have that product in your hand, you may not get that much happiness. So, Kama analam madhulavaihi shamayam durapaihi. He says that Kama analam, when our desire, material desire to enjoy sense gratification is burning like fire, what can few drops of material happiness do to us? They cannot do anything. So then he says that, oh Lord, you have mercifully put your hand on my head. You have not bestowed this benediction even to Shiva or Brahma or Lakshmi also, but you have put your hand on my head. I am very grateful to you, my dear Lord. He says. Then he says that, oh Lord, some people may perceive you as partial, but actually you are not partial. You are reciprocal. So you just reciprocate with the amount of devotional service or the quality of bhakti rendered by a devotee, and you are not actually partial. Then he also says in the 28th shloka, Prahalad Maharaj also says that, today I am able to see you and have your darshan and receive your mercy only because of the benediction given to me, the knowledge given to me by my Guru Narada Muni. How can I give up my service to Narada Muni? I am so obliged to Narada Muni. So in this way, Prahalad also expressed his gratitude towards Narada Muni. So many people have been instrumental in bringing us to the process of Bhakti Yoga, Krishna consciousness. We should never forget the favor done by them. We should always be grateful towards them. Even while standing in front of the Supreme Lord, Prahalad never forgot Narada Muni, who enlightened him in his childhood when he was within the womb. And later Prahalad describes the relationship between the Lord and the cosmos. He says, the Lord, oh Lord, everything exists within you only. You are the cosmos, and the cosmos, the entire cosmic manifestation is your energy. As Karanodakasai Vishnu, millions and millions of universes come out of your bodily pores, and you enter each of those universes as Garbhodakasai Vishnu, and Brahmaji has appeared from your navel lake, from your navel of Garbhodakasai Vishnu. This lotus flower manifested, and on top of that lotus flower, Brahmaji took birth, and then he created this entire details of the universe. And Brahmaji has seen your beautiful form, and you also appeared as Hayagriva and gave the Vedic knowledge, stolen Vedas to Brahma back. So you appear in different incarnations, and you are also called Tri Yuga because you appear in Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga and Dwapar Yuga. But in Kali Yuga, although you appear, that is Channavatar, that is covered incarnation. In this way, Prahalad has indicated the appearance of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also in his prayer, that is the 38th prayer. So after saying all this, Prahlad Maharaj expresses his humility and concern for the fallen souls and materialistic people in this world. Prahlad says that, "Oh Lord, my situation is so degraded, I am a sinful person because of attraction towards so many sense objects. I am like a person who has multiple wives. So when one man has so many wives, different wives are pulling this man in different directions, the person cannot remain peaceful." So Prahlad compares himself like that. I have my eyes running towards beautiful objects, my tongue is constantly hankering for palatable food items, and my nose is constantly running towards sweet fragrance, and my skin always wants to touch soft objects. So like that, my ears also want to hear materialistic music. So all the senses are totally distracted. How can I focus my mind on your beautiful descriptions, on your katha, my dear Lord? So please bestow your mercy upon me so that I can focus on your leelas and katha. Then finally, he says that, "Oh Lord, I am very fearful in this material existence." But in the next shloka he says, "I am not fearful." That is the 43rd shloka, which is very important shloka. He says, "Naivo dvije paraduratyaya vaitaranyah tvadvirya gayana mahamritamagna chittah shochetato vimukhachetasa indriyartha maya sukhaya bharamudvahato vimudhan." He says, "Naivo dvije paraduratyaya vaitaranyah." Oh Lord, we both are on the either side of Vaitarani river. So you are on the other side of the Vaitarani river in the spiritual realm, and I am in this material realm. When will I be able to come to your lotus feet? But anyways, I am not fearful of this Vaitarani river that is in the middle of the spiritual and material realms. Why? Tvad-virya gayana mahamrita magna chittaha. My chitta, my consciousness is totally absorbed in glorification of your beautiful prowess and qualities and activities. Tvad-virya gayana mahamrita magna chittaha. My chitta is totally intoxicated and immersed in description of your glories. So shoche tato vimukha-chetasa indriyartham. Because I am not in any trouble, because I am constantly being absorbed in your divine narrations, but I am very much lamenting for those people who are averse to bhakti yoga and averse to hearing Krishna katha, being absorbed in sense gratification. Vimukha chetasa indriyartha. For the purpose of satisfying their senses, they have rejected your bhakti. So I am lamenting for them. And he says that there are so many souls, great souls and sages who desire their own liberation, who they go to Himalayas or they go to some secluded places, they perform Maunavrata and they try to deliver themselves by getting absorbed in meditation and all that. I am not like them. I am very much, I am so compassionate on fallen souls. I want their liberation. I don't want to seek my own liberation. I don't want to be liberated alone. I want to take all the suffering souls also with me. So in this way, Prahlad Maharaj has exhibited his compassion on fallen souls. And in the 45th prayer he says, "Yanmai thunadhi grihamedhi sukham hituchham kanduyanena karayo riva dukkha dukkham trupyanti neha kripana bahu dukkha bhaja kanduti vanmanasijam vishaheta dhiraha." Yan maithunadi grihamedhi sukham hituchham. The pleasure that is available in materialistic life, which is predominantly sense gratification or sex life, that is actually tuchham. It is very insignificant. Kanduyanena karayoreva dukkha dukkham. It is like scratching, an itching sensation. When you have some itching sensation on your hand, you scratch and you get a relief, but actually that is not relief. That will aggravate the wound and that will only create more pain to you. And because you get a sense of relief by scratching, you tend to scratch more and more and increase the wound. So while scratching, a person might get little imaginary relief, but in the way he will also aggravate the wound. So similarly, by engaging in sense gratification, one will only perpetuate one's material existence and entanglement. One will not actually get any relief from this material existence, relief from any distress. So he says like that, Tripyanti neha kripana bahudukha bhajan kandutivan manasijam vishaheta dhiraha. A dhira or a sober person will not actually try to take pleasure in such materialistic pleasures. Then finally, Prahlad describes the different methods of bhakti, and he glorifies that only devotional service is the ultimate refuge for all fallen living entities. So in this way, Prahlad Maharaj offered his heartfelt prayers to the Lord, and the Supreme Lord Narasimhadev is completely pacified with these prayers of the Lord, prayers of Prahlad, and he says that, my dear Prahlad, I am very pleased with you. You can ask any benediction from me, and I am ready to give you any boon that you want. And seeing me is very rare, and my darshan should not go in vain. I can fulfill all your desires. Please ask whatever you want. And that completes the 9th chapter, and we enter the 10th chapter. And in the 10th chapter, when Narasimhadev asked Prahlad Maharaj to ask for any boon, Prahlad said that, "Oh Lord, I am already born in this demoniac dynasty. My heart is already filled with so many material desires, and on top of it you are giving me some boons, benedictions. Don't tempt me with those benedictions. I don't want to be tempted by those benedictions. Oh Lord, although you are trying to ask me to take any boon from you, you actually wanted to show that your devotees never desire any material benedictions. So you wanted to announce the glories of your devotees. The devotees do not have any material desires. That's your purpose of asking me to take any boon from you. So, but I don't want to take any boon from you, my dear Lord. I am not a merchant. I am not a businessman who wants to offer devotional service to you in exchange of some material benediction. I am not like a businessman. You are my eternal master, and I am your unalloyed servant. That is the only relationship between you and me. Our only relationship is through the process of bhakti. I just want to serve you eternally. A master who tries to give some incentives to his servant to maintain the servant is not the real master, or a servant who renders service to the master just to derive some material benefits from that master is not a real servant. So I am a real servant and you are a real master, so there is no material exchange between us. So I am an unalloyed and unmotivated servant. That's why Prahlad's bhakti is unmotivated and uninterrupted. Although Hiranyakashipu was placing so many obstacles in Prahlad's bhakti was not interrupted. And although Narasimhadev, the Lord, is personally tempting Prahlad to take any benediction, Prahlad says that I don't want anything. So that is unmotivated. Ahaituki apratihata. So Prahlad is a perfect example of ahaituki and apratihata bhakti, unmotivated and uninterrupted bhakti. That's the nature of a pure devotional service. And finally, Prahlad asked for a boon. He says that, oh Lord, if at all you want to give me any benediction, give me the benediction of not having any material desires. Let me give up all material desires. That's my only desire. So my desire is to give up all material desires. Bestow this boon upon me. He says like this. So yadi dasyasi me kaman varamstvam varadarshapha. He says kamanam hridya samroham bhavatastu vrine varam. So, and nevertheless, our Prahlad asked for one benediction also. What is that? Oh Lord, I have prayed for all the conditioned souls during my prayers, but I want to offer a specific prayer for Hiranyakashipu, my father, who tormented me in various ways out of hatred and anger towards you. So Prahlad wanted Narasimhadev to show some mercy on Hiranyakashipu, because the Lord just now killed Hiranyakashipu. So Prahlad was desiring some mercy for that Hiranyakashipu, and the Supreme Lord Narasimhadev said that no, your father has already been bestowed with so much of mercy. So Narasimhadev told Prahlad that, oh Prahlad, you enjoy all opulences, Although Prahlad did not want any benedictions, he wanted to give up all material desires, the Lord said that you enjoy all opulences for one mantra period, right? And till the end of this manvantara, you can enjoy all opulences and you rule as the king of all demons. You can perform bhakti yoga and you can be liberated from this material bondage and you can attain me. And whoever remembers your activities will also become a great devotee. And they will also become dear to you. And you are asking for the benediction of liberation for your father, mercy for your father. What to speak of your father? 21 generations, just because you are born in this dynasty, 21 forefathers have been delivered. So then, when a devotee is present in a dynasty or in a place, the place is purified and the family is also purified. A devotee is the source of purification of the entire dynasty or community. So Narasimhadev has appreciated Prahlad's devotion in various ways, and finally Brahma offered prayers to Narasimhadev, and Narasimhadev gave a warning to Brahma, gave a caution note to Brahma. Brahma, you have given such benedictions to Hiranyakashipu, and Hiranyakashipu became so extremely powerful and he became a great threat to this entire universe. Never give such benedictions to demoniac people like this anymore. So with this suggestion, advice to Brahma, Narasimhadev has disappeared and Brahma has coronated Prahlad as the king of this demoniac dynasty, and then Narada Muni concluded this narration. So, and Narada Muni again says that this Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha were actually Jaya and Vijaya in their previous birth, in the Vaikuntha realm. They became Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. They were killed by Varaha and Narasimha, and in the next birth, this is their first birth, and in the second birth they became Ravana and Kumbhakarna. They were killed by Ram, and in the third birth they will become Shishupal and Dantavakra, and they would be killed by Krishna. So in this way Narada Muni concluded this narration, and he says that this narration describes the beautiful story of Prahlad Maharaj. He is a Mahabhagavat devotee. So one who faithfully hears or chants this narration of Prahlad Maharaj and the activities of the omnipotence of Lord Narasimhadev, he will attain pure devotion like Prahlad Maharaj. If we want to develop devotion or any quality, we have to hear about the devotees who have exhibited those qualities. That is the way of developing them. By hearing about these pure devotees like Prahlada or Dhruva or Ambarish or Prithu, etc., we are associating with them. We are associating with Prahlada. In the last 3 episodes, we are associating with Prahlad through hearing and through reading what Sukadeva Goswami has spoken. So then Narada Muni also told Yudhishthira Maharaj, Yudhishthira Maharaj, you are also very fortunate because Krishna is your direct friend and well-wisher. You are also very fortunate. Krishna is your direct intimate friend. And even Shiva and Brahma also could not properly describe the truth about the Supreme Lord. That Lord is your friend. Now, when Yudhishthira Maharaj has heard this entire pastime of Prahlad Maharaj, he became so enlivened. And Yudhishthira also noticed one statement that Narada Muni has made. He says that, oh Narada Muni, you said that Shiva and Brahma could not understand the glories of the Lord. And I can understand that Brahma may not be able to understand the glories of the Lord, but Shiva is the best of all Vaishnavas, Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu. How he could not understand the glories of the Lord? In response to that, Narada Muni speaks a very small incident that happened once. So once there was a mystic demon named Mayadanava. He has created some 3 invisible residences that can fly for the demons. So he has created 3 invisible residences made of gold, silver and iron, and gave those residences to the demons. And these flying houses which are made of gold, silver and iron, they were going to different places, and they were creating so much disturbance to the demigods and saintly people. So all the demigods went to Lord Shiva, and Shiva reassured the demigods, I will protect you. Then Mayadanava, and Shiva actually took his golden arrows and then he destroyed these demons. And Mayadanava revived the demons by putting their dead bodies in a well by putting the dead bodies in a well of nectar, and they again were revived. Then at that time, Lord Vishnu and Brahma came in the form of cow and calf, and they drank all the nectar from this well. And because of the Lord's illusion, the demons could not prevent Vishnu and Brahma, this cow and calf. In this way, Vishnu also assisted Shiva. And thereafter, Krishna equipped Lord Shiva with a special bow and chariot and other paraphernalia, including flag, horses, elephants, and bow and shield and arrows, and empowered Lord Shiva to destroy these three residences. And Shiva destroyed them. So, Tripura, there are three puras. The pura means a palace, and there are three puras which are made of gold, iron, and silver. So, Shiva has set fire to all the three residences and destroyed them, and the demigods and saints and other people just praised Lord Shiva. And Shiva was able to do this only because of the benediction of Lord Krishna or Vishnu. The Shiva is also dependent on Krishna or Vishnu. This is a small incident that is spoken at the end of this 10th chapter. So we have completed 10 chapters. That means we have completed the pure bhakti part of the 7th canto of Bhagavatam. In the remaining 5 chapters, chapter number 11 to 15, there is a description of Varnashrama, in which there may not be pure bhakti, there is a bhakti mixed with some other alloys. We will discuss more about it in the next episode. Thank you all very much. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.